We're joined by Fox Business contributor Walid Phares. Walid, thanks for joining us. And at that press conference just wrapped up, Jen Psaki also said that ISIS-K and the Taliban have no ability to hit the U.S. Would you agree with that?
Well, first of all, very important to explain what do we mean by hitting back against ISIS-K, as we've seen the case over the past few days. This is a rear guard exchange of fire with an army that wants to occupy immediately when we leave. So these are tactical successes, but we forget to explain to the public that we have surrendered all of Afghanistan with all that huge list of billions of dollars worth of very advanced weapons. That's the big picture contrast with statements by the White House. But more importantly, obviously, when the Taliban will be able to organize themselves, they are opening the path for all these jihadi groups, including Al-Qaeda. Just today, we saw the video of one of the top Al-Qaeda leaders coming from Pakistan and the Taliban opening the path. And now you're going to have ISIS-K, Al-Qaeda, Haqqani, but also other jihadi organizations around the world being based and protected by the Taliban. What would that mean is that these organizations can, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, and through the other countries where they have chapters, including in Europe and in the United States, administer strikes, not necessarily immediately, but in the weeks and the months and maybe in the year to come.
So that sounds menacing. And I'm looking at in the immediate future, under 24 hours before the Taliban and the Biden deadline of getting our troops out. At this time tomorrow, what leverage, if any, does the United States have with people that don't like us?
That's a great question. First, at the airport, we are completely surrounded at the airport. We have the power to respond, as I said, tactically. But once we are outside Afghan soil, we will only have the capacity of launching drones or missiles, Tomahawks, from somewhere in the Gulf or maybe another or two bases in the region. But that's it. That is not going to deter the Taliban nor Al-Qaeda. If when we were inside Afghanistan with our entire armed forces and our bases, we were not, able to completely eradicate them. Now that we are out, you can imagine. I mean, you have the answer here.
So what do we do with Americans that are left behind? Are thousands of our allies that were not able and will not be able to evacuate? What's the recourse for them?
Look, already it's a big problem. Already we are in the pit. Already this administration, in my view, has nothing to do with politics, made major strategic mistakes, but we're here. So I will make a distinction between two things. The group of American citizens will be evacuated probably in coordination with the friends of the Taliban, two countries that are now wants to administer or manage the airport. That would be Qatar, where the Taliban were hosted for 20 years, and now Turkey, who wants to take over some of the economic projects in Afghanistan. So I would say for Americans, it will be long, it will be painful, but they will be extracted. I'm not that positive about our allies, the Afghanis, because the Taliban have already shown, even when we were still there, that they have arrested, tortured, killed. And now once we are out of the airport, that's very important, we won't have we won't have international press to cover. So that's the moment that I fear the most, where the Taliban will go after every Afghan who worked with their government and with us and with NATO.
Jennifer Griffin a few days ago made an excellent point. She said, we fault the media for always calling this the forever war. Of course, no one wants to be at war forever with Afghanistan. But maybe that's not how we should have phrased it. Maybe it should be considered a permanent strategic outpost. We need some sort of presence there to keep these terror groups at bay. Would you agree with that? Always
Absolutely.
Being there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you framed it very, very well. Look, we have 35,000 troops between the two Koreas. If tomorrow we withdraw because we have been there for, 60 years, what would happen? The North Koreans will invade all the way to the shores. We have forces now that we have dispatched in Estonia facing the Russian buildup. So it is not that Afghanistan was the only place in the world where we have deployed. And guess what? We had deployed only 2,500 military versus the other bigger deployment. I think this argument is being pushed by the administration and by the lobbies of the allies of the Taliban to just, put some emotional pressure on the American public, and they were successful.
Yeah. And then finally here, as we wrap this up, Walid, if you look at the economy of Afghanistan. They're sitting on, what, $1 trillion in these critical minerals like lithium used for batteries and electric vehicles, et cetera. Do you think the Chinese or the Russians are going to go in and economically boost them to extract those minerals? And if so, does that put the U.S. at a disadvantage?
Already the U.S., by leaving the country, is at a disadvantage. That's done. So now the competition is going to be between those who are going to move in. The Taliban already have friends, have allies. And I just mentioned Qatar, Pakistan, some circles in Pakistan. They will decide, they will choose which Chinese company will come in. We were told that they have some arrangement with some of the Chinese, but those who are going to be making the money will be the allies of the Taliban and the leadership of the Taliban, and we will be out, we and our allies in the region as well.
Yeah. What a blunder. Walid Phares, thank you so much for the time.